Tonight, in their first ever interview, Sam, Mike, and Jeff talk with the actor who played their favorite villain in MacGyver's Season 1, Anthony De Longis. But will Mike ruin this golden opportunity by singing more 80s tunes? Find out next on Making Fun of MacGyver. It's Making Fun of MacGyver, the rib-tickling takedown of our favorite 80s adventure show, The Dukes of Hazzard. No, it's MacGyver. Starring Sam Jordan as the skeptic, Mike Garland as the diehard, and Jeff Hess as the scientist.
Name's MacGyver.
And welcome, everybody, to Making Fun of MacGyver, the show where we recap, review, and ridicule every episode of the original classic series, MacGyver. We love MacGyver. We just love making fun of it, too. That's what it boils down to. So if you listen to the show, you know we recently wrapped up Season 1, and we were blown away by the final episode of Season 1, The Assassin. It's episode 22, but especially by the character of Piedra, the assassin, the shape-shifting, MacGyverism using deadly serial killer, kind of just terrifying, almost superhuman villain. And it was played by the actor Anthony De Longis. So we had to track him down. And we did, thanks to Mike. And what follows next is our almost hour-long chat with this man who has an amazing career as an actor, director, fight coordinator, stunt coordinator. Just the IMDb is out of control. So sit back and relax and listen to our chat with Anthony De Longis, a.k.a. Piedra, the assassin. Well, he fought with Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. He dueled with Jet Li in Fearless. He taught Michelle Pfeiffer how to use a whip for her role as Catwoman in Batman Returns, and Harrison Ford how to use a whip for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. His TV credits include Quincy, Battlestar Galactica, The A-Team, V, The Dukes of Hazzard, Star Trek Voyager, NCIS, many more. And his video game credits include Red Dead Redemption and Hitman Absolution. And now, 35 years later, after we've seen him as the terrifying assassin Piedra in MacGyver Season 1 finale, we're thrilled to welcome Anthony De Longis to Making Fun of MacGyver. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Hi, guys. It's my pleasure. You left out a few credits, but they can go to my IMDb. Yeah.
Let me tell you how we wound up at your virtual doorstep. So we've got this little dog and pony show, a little podcast, Making Fun of MacGyver. We've been doing it only a year now. We all love MacGyver, but we kind of love making fun of it just as much because, you know, it's got that 80s cheese element to it. So we're watching the whole first season. We break down every episode. And each one has so many laughable moments, bad green screen, you know, scripts, whatever. We get through the entire first season, we're 22nd episode, the last episode of Season 1, and all of a sudden, we're at like cinematic A-level quality. Our socks are blowing off, and we're trying. Like, what is this guy? There's nothing to make fun of in this episode. And who is this guy? Who is this guy? We run to IMDb and we find your name, and we're just amazed at those credits of yours. So we're really thankful and happy to have you here. But that's how we wound up at your doorstep.
Oh, if you're wondering what I'm drinking, this is mate, yerba mate that I learned all about when I was doing a picture in Argentina with David Carradine. I did 3 with him. The first one in Israel, Circle of Iron. And then we were in Argentina for The Warrior and the Sorceress, and Canada for Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. And David came down to see me. I started at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego in 1973. That was my first professional job. That's where I count my career from, because that's when they started paying me. So that to me is the mark of a professional. I get paid. I've got lots of David stories, but you were about to ask me a question. Go ahead.
Just looking at that IMDb, we were blown away by how diverse and just, the amazing credits, all these milestone, products from the 70s and 80s, 90s. And we were just wondering now, has this career been as enjoyable to live through as it was for us to read on IMDb?
Well, it's not over yet, boys, but yes, yes, I have lots of great memories. I have lots of wonderful stories. I share them with people when they come to Rancho Andala to train with me. This is where my school is, and this is I get clients from all over the country, all over the world when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, and I enjoy teaching because it helps keep me performance sharp and finding ways to communicate information to people. And then after the day, we sit around the table outdoors and have an adult beverage, and that usually gets me kind of loquacious, and I start sharing stories. So their friend has been after me to write a book about all this, and I'm finally starting to go, I've got a lot of great stories. I should probably write these down while I can still remember them.
So I wanted to ask you about the Rancho and Dollar. I was going to save it towards the end, but let's get into it right away now. Tell us about this. It sounds amazing. It's basically giving people that authentic kind of Wild West experience, hands-on training, horse riding. It just sounds amazing.
Well, it's I get a lot of professionals. We had the Australian Stunt Academy here for 11 years in a row. Again, that's the pre-pandemic. I get clients, people who are professionals who want to increase their marketable skills. I get people who want to get into the business, and then we also do an action vacation for people who want to train to be their favorite action hero. So anything from Catwoman to well, you name it. We do. I do all the European weapons. I do the Filipino weapons. I trained with Guru Dan Inosanto for over a decade. I do Japanese weapons. I've been training with Kaiso Toshishiro Obata for over a decade. I've been doing sword work. Well, I started in the late 60s with my fencing master, which was Ralph Faulkner, who was a two-time Olympian, and he was the sword master to the stars in classic Hollywood. He did everything from the original Prisoner of Zenda on up to the Court Jester and many, many more in between. So I have a very diverse background. It's like, what do you want to learn? And then I have a structure that I teach that allows us to move easily from one art to another, because I've had a parallel career. In front of the camera, I'm an actor. And much of the time I've played the bad guy, meaning the antagonist, because you don't have much of a hero unless you've got, a very strong adversary. And I've enjoyed playing variations on that theme with a variety of different accents. In 13 countries on 5 continents, so that's been pretty cool. And then I have my choreography track where I've been a sword master, I'm a whip master, I'm a weapons expert. Again, I do all of those different disciplines. We here at the ranch, you can learn any of those things. Plus, we have an on-site archery range and a knife and tomahawk range. I'm in the Knife Throwers Hall of Fame. I'm in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. All of which is kind of nice. But then if you already ride, I can take people up onto horseback. We live top of a mountain 2 hills over from Vasquez Rocks, which is where Kirk battled the Gorn, and I marooned Star Trek Voyager when I played Maj Kula for 5 episodes, and left them marooned and stole Voyager. That was a fun adventure. And it's just it's a very, very cool place. This is our paradise. When my wife and I, Dr. Mary De Longis, she's a PhD in cellular biology and anatomy, and I'm the circus she ran off to join. So now she does all the things I do, and she's so good that I'll hold a target for her, with whips and swords. And she just got her black belt in
Wow.
Shinkendo, which is Japanese sword. So we're pretty well matched, and she now rides horses, and we do all that kind of stuff. So um, I lived in the heart of Hollywood for 25 years, 18 across from the bowl. We've been out here now. This will be our 19th year this summer. We like this better. It's named after the southernmost province in Spain, Almeria, and their sort of state symbol is the Indalo, which was a cave painting from 1st century AD, where it's a genie holding a rainbow. He's the bringer of good luck and good weather. So they said, boy, if we ever get our ranch, that's what we're going to call it. And we did, and we did.
Sounds awesome. Maybe we can get a group rate for the three of us if we can come out at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, you could. I prefer one-on-one or small groups, but three is well within. We get a dozen Australians at a time for 11 days, but I like because I like to be able to make sure you actually learn something, and kind of challenge each person individually. And so again, small groups are more fun for me, and I think it would be for you. Yeah, you should consider it team building, and we'll make it a tax deduction because you can record an awful lot of episodes at night while we're drinking.
Yeah, so you mentioned all the weapons disciplines you're a part of. Stuntmanning's like a young man's game. I'm wondering, did you decide early in your career to take a weapons route to create a niche for yourself and keep that career going for 35 years? Or how did it, you want to be a stuntman and weapons was the thing, or you were a weapons guy and then stuntmanning was the thing?
That's an interesting question you ask. What I was starting to say was I have a parallel career. I started as an actor. I've always been an actor. I think it's why my choreography is more interesting because I like to make sure that it tells a story and it articulates character and isn't just a lot of athletics. So when you're doing a play, I did repertory theater at the Old Globe for a number of years, and you're going to do 8 shows a week, and you've got to be able to recreate that magic every time, and there is no cut back to one that you get. That's a luxury in film. So when I do choreograph for film, I try to have put together a story with shifting jeopardy and everything, so you have a very satisfying climax for the audience, and with lots of surprises and turnarounds, and then ultimately something that is very dynamic and dramatic and visual. So I sort of got into the action coming in as a specialist and a weapons specialist because there are very few people in Hollywood who have my knowledge about swords and almost none who have what I know about whips, because I've been doing that for 38 years now, I guess. I actually created my own system that is more efficient, more effective, more accurate, a lot safer, and that utilizes the structure of the whip and the whole principle of martial arts goal is to have maximum return for minimum effort and to get all the parts working together at the same time. So no one part has to do more than share. Most people are satisfied with making a big noise, and they do a lot of yanking and cranking with the whip. I call it cowboying the whip. And that's nice, but that's what the whip's designed to do. It's sort of the lowest bar is to make a big noise. I need to be very, very precise, and so I can take weapons out of your hand. I can, wrap you around the neck. I can wrap you around the body from 8 different angles, because to me the whip is a supersonic telescoping blade. Oh, by the way, do you know how fast the tip of the whip goes?
No.
768 miles per hour. Speed of sound is about 1088 feet per second. The tip of the whip will do up to 1400. A 45 is only 900. So it's a lot of power. It will, if you get a chance to come to my website, which is www.delongis.com, delongis.com, you'll see my reels, my sword reel, my whip reel, my horse reel, etc. And you'll see on the whip reel that I'm cutting things and shattering things for a show called More Extreme Marksman. And then on horseback, I run my partner down and take a target out of his hand. And our last shot is we pass at the gallop, and I take a target out of his hand with the whip. I can do that easily with swords. I was kind of going, well, I haven't done this with a whip before, but I've earned the trust of my animals. I've actually ridden horses on 11 countries, on 5 continents, and which is great because it was my dream as a boy. I didn't really get to it until my late 30s. And 30 years later, the horse has kind of taken me all over the world. So to answer your question, basically the more things you can do, the more you can work and the longer you can work. So these days, I'm not much interested in falling off of trucks or, doing that. but I can still come in and offer a lot of imagination and execution and help other people to look great, doing what they're doing, like Michelle or Ellen Barkin or Angelica Houston or Harrison Ford or a long list. Although it was only a couple years ago that they flew me to Shanghai, Yen Wu Ping, to fight Jet Li and Fearless. So there aren't a lot of guys who can hang with Jet Li with a sword, but I can.
Well, and you're so versed in all of these different weapons, and you've been honored for that, Anthony, with the Black Belt Hall of Fame, the USA Martial Arts Hall of Heroes, the International Knife Throwers Hall of Fame, being an expert swordsman, an expert fencer. Where did you even find the time to master all these crafts, let alone be so amazingly good at it that you've received the highest honor in those particular specialties?
Well, I kind of have a mantra that, I've been using more lately, to keep me motivated. If I'm not getting better, I'm just getting older. And there's only one of those things I can do anything about. So I try to never stop training. I try to never stop learning. There are things that I can't do athletically as well as I used to be able to do. But in terms of the depth of my knowledge, it's much greater. So I guess that's progress.
Regarding the International Knife Throwers Hall of Fame. Now, when you guys have your annual inductees dinner or whatever, and you sit down to your seats with your plates and the cutlery, I'm just wondering what kind of chaos ensues there. How terrified are these waiters when you've got 100 master knife throwers with steak knives in their right hands?
Well, that was more the USA Martial Arts Hall of Heroes. There was those kind of numbers and people. The International Knife Throwers Hall of Fame. It was a little quieter, although it was in Texas. So anything can happen in Texas. Yeah, it's kind of not like that. Although I have to say I would see that movie. I've actually I just the end of last October, I did a picture with Scott Adkins, who's very, very talented. And it was kind of funny because it's a Jesse Johnson movie. It's called Debt Collector 2. And I was essentially doing the fight that I had done with Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, 30 years later. And so we had a few jokes about that, but it was a very strong deja vu. But it's nice to work with Scott. He's a very talented fella.
Well, let's talk about some of these big, huge names you've mentioned here. Let's go back to Jet Li. Give us a few thoughts on that experience working in 2006 film Fearless with Jet Li. What was that like for you?
Well, it was pretty wonderful. My only disappointment was, I came in a week early, and I was looking forward to working out with the team, because, Wu Ping's team are, they're justifiably famous. In this country, they did all the, Keanu Reeves and, what am I trying to think
Matrix?
of? Agent Smith and The Matrix. They did he did all the Matrix movies and stuff, but, he is one of the most famous and deservedly so, and best action choreographers, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and just a huge long list. So I was really looking forward to working with them. I like to evolve choreography. To me, there is verbal dialogue and then there's physical dialogue. And again, it's coming from my acting background, so I look at, excuse me, it's a conversation, which means sometimes you talk and sometimes you listen. Not everybody listens very much. So I was, that's how I like to choreograph. I like to evolve. When I did Highlander, I guest starred on Highlander twice and worked with my friend F. Braun McCash, who at that point, I did season 3 and then season 5, which was the Duende episode, which they wrote for me based on a backstory idea of mine, which was the only way I could get on the show again after season 3. And we co-choreographed this together, and I introduced the destreza, which is a unique form of Spanish rapier fighting. It had never been on film before, and it's kind of cool. They sort of suggested it for Zorro. with Antonio Banderas, the first one where they talk about the circle. And oddly enough, I had introduced that idea to the previous scriptwriter. Alas, her movie didn't get made, and this one did. But the mention of a circle came in. But I was the first one to put Thibault's mysterious circle fighting in the rain in Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower, which you can't see because it's pissing down rain. And it was $1 million production value, but very difficult to work under those conditions. But it was very exciting. So Braun and I would evolve choreography, by way of, okay, I'll do this, and you'll counter by doing A or B. Oh, let's do B, and then you do, and then I would respond to him. And it's my preferred way of working. Well, the the Chinese crew have worked together for a very long time, so they basically can read each other's minds. And they are very, very staccato. They move very fast. And I was in their house, so I had to find a way to fit in. And they were 5 days behind when I finally got to the stage and shook Jet's hand for the first time, and met Wu Ping. And they immediately started throwing together some stuff. And the first thing they wanted me to do was go, I'm going to come up here so you can see, pokey, pokey, pokey. And I went, oh, God, they think that European swordplay is what they've seen in the movies, which I like to refer to as a miasma of misinformation with rare exceptions. And so I'm going, well, I'm not going to do that because that would deny the nature of my weapon and my character, who's supposed to be an expert Spanish swordsman. I was using elements from the mysterious circle. And so I gave them a lunge with a thrust and a recovery pass forward and then a redoublement, which is a fancy way of saying three point attacks, but always staying behind the weapon the way a good fighter would. That's what you get with knowledge. And so we did that first phrase. The funny thing was neither Jet nor I actually knew the choreography because we had literally just made it up. And we would get, and when Jet and Wu Ping were happy with how it looked, Jet and I would get up and walk it once or twice, and then we'd shoot it at speed. I think we shot 3 takes. Everything else was 2 takes or less because we'd do it, and Wu Ping would go, a little tweak here, a little faster there, a little pause here. There weren't very many pauses. Jet is very, very fast, and I had to totally commit to where he was going to be, but wasn't there yet. Which was, took all of my training. I had to bring my A game, which I really enjoyed. And they were giving me choreography that was based on a Chinese weapon, and I'm using a European weapon. So, and I realized very quickly, you're having me attack the quadrants to prompt Jet's response in a form that he's probably done thousands of times. Because he's wuxia, he's martial arts royalty, and rightly so. So I just, very early on, I said, well, I'll give you those attacks, and I'll go to those places. Would you mind if I got there this way instead of the way you're asking me to, which doesn't make any sense to me. I didn't say that part. And I guess one of the team said, "Who's choreographing this, us or the Guaylo?" Which is a not particularly flattering way of saying white guy. And Wu Ping said, "This Guaylo knows what he's doing." And after that, it was great. And Jet and I got along terrific. I said to him, because I didn't get to train with the team, I came in and said, okay, I'm going to attack to these spots. I'm going to go to your shoulder, and I'm going to go to your hip, and I'm going to go. I basically told him this was how I was going to attack when I was attacking these areas. And he said, "Oh, you're very skilled. That's why we have you here, and you're very experienced, and you're concerned with my safety." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Me too." And he laughed, and we laughed, and we just had a grand time after that. But it was probably the most organic fight I've ever done, because neither one of us actually knew the choreography. But between the two of us, we probably had more than 70 years of sword experience. So I would move and he'd adjust, and he would move and I would adjust. And it was
awesome
it's
achievement.
One of my career favorites. And that's why you train.
Yeah.
Because
so it could have been. So you're telling us it could have been even better if you had like 3 or 4 more days to prepare with him.
Well, actually, in 2 half days, I caught them up 3 of the days they were behind. So that made me feel pretty good too. They like that about me too. Although he
So
hasn't
you
called.
got
Gosh,
that
I go-
expert swordsmanship with Jet Li. Now, 10 years prior, you're taking on Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. Compare those two experiences. What was that like in Roadhouse?
Oh, Roadhouse was a lot of fun. I got to have dialogue there. Played a fun character. I kept fighting. I actually have one more fight that you've never seen. While Sam Elliott is fighting, Marshall Teague, the guy with the earring and who gets his throat ripped out. Really nice fella, Marshall. He's a veteran. He was part of the teams and very handy fellow, and very nice guy too. But while he's fighting him, I'm over next to Ben Gazzara fighting Patrick Swayze yet one more time. I guess they thought they'd seen enough of us, and so that one didn't make it into the film, but I got to do it. It was funny. Benny Urquidez, Benny the Jet, very famous martial artist and very accomplished ring fighter. He trained Patrick, and Patrick's a dancer. Pat wasn't really a martial artist, so Benny trained him to music, and Patrick did a terrific job, and he was a lot of fun to work with, and I got lots of great memories and stories. Actually, one of which is Jeff Healey, was playing the blind musician, because he actually is, but he's a terrific musician. Sorry that he's passed. But when you're making a movie, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of sitting around while they reset the lights or they, flip around and change the camera angles to get other coverage or whatever. And usually it can be, like, so how long is this going to be? An hour? Okay. Yeah. Well, with Jeff, he'd just sit there and play. Or just kind of going, take your time. Yeah. Music's good.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's
Can I have a drink?
Look at your work in Batman Returns, 1992. So for that film, it's funny that you taught Michelle Pfeiffer how to crack a whip 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this. I don't take you for the Twitter type, but somehow this was trending on Twitter that there was this secondary camera footage of Michelle Pfeiffer cracking the 3 mannequins' heads off in a mall, not in the movie, but for someone else just having a camera there.
It was our last shot. It was the last shot of the film. That was the day that Michelle wrapped, and she actually did that. Michelle did all her own whip work. She had no doubles for that. Mostly because she wanted to do it, and the other thing was none of the professional stunt girls got anywhere near as good as she did. Because she realized what I was trying to give her was another vocabulary to add a layer of credibility to her character. So when you actually see somebody like in the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, Harrison only does one whip crack that's start to finish. It's in Temple of Doom, up on the cliffs where he grabs a sword out of a guy's hand. Otherwise, everything's done in cuts. And, your mind puts it together, and it's really cool. It was one of my inspirations for teaching myself the whip. The reason I don't do the whip like anybody else is I taught myself, but we'll come back to that. So anyway, she did that shot, and then at the end she skips out, and that wasn't anything we'd rehearsed, but she had told me when we were training that her father was a boxer and used to skip rope. So I think
That's
that
awesome.
little moment was an homage to him. But I was very, very proud of her. We were very lucky because I got to train her for almost 6 weeks, and then she wanted to continue training throughout the filming. And they were filming Danny DeVito out due to a schedule thing. So we had more time, and she got so good, we would walk into the location and look at the problems and turn adversity into opportunity. And there was one of my favorite stories from this is The Ice Princess, where, the girl is all tied to the chair, and Batman comes in, and then Catwoman comes in and cuts her loose with her nails and, throws a chair, and that was how it was going to be. I showed up early on set that day because after one day I wasn't on set very early on in our filming, and Michelle had a problem with the whip, and it was it's a little thing, but she just said I want him on set when I'm on set, and I'm going, yeah, that would be great. And basically I'd go in and I'd look at something and I would tell the lighting guys, I need 14 inches for Michelle to be able to make this work. Can you move that light 6 inches to the left? And then she could focus on her performance and not worry about the whip getting tangled, and then she gets frustrated, etc. So everything was quite magic. But in this thing, I came in and Tim Burton said, I don't think there's any whip stuff in this scene, Anthony. I went, yes, sir. I went over and sat in a corner and watched them rehearse. And after the rehearsal, I came over to Michelle and kind of whispered in her ear, because we had that give and take relationship. She trusted my opinion. And actually, well, at the last day, she had said to me, if you weren't an actor, this wouldn't have been nearly as effective a collaboration. And I thanked her for that. But I said, a whip in one hand and a chair in the other says lion tamer the world over. And she goes, Tim, Anthony has this idea. so basically she swung in on the whip, cut the girl loose, dumped her in the chair, cracked the whip, threw the chair at Batman, wrapped the girl around the waist with the whip, pulled her in for a 2-shot, and said, girl talk, and then they left.
Wow.
We rehearsed it once and shot it twice, and we were done. And we created it on the spot because
6 weeks. I imagine that's a good compared to the Jet Li experience. You had a lot of time with her, and so she could take all that in.
Well, it helped too, because I helped change how she was carrying how she was moving, because I knew she was going to be in anywhere from 3 to 6 inch heels all the time. Most of the time she was in 3-inch heels, which is still a lot. Funny enough, one of my first job that got me my equity card, I played the Vicomte de Valvert in Cyrano de Bergerac with Richard Chamberlain at the Amundsen Theater. And they put me in boots with 2.5-inch heels. When I went and I'm kind of going, boy, it's a good thing my technique is good, or I'd break my ankle. And when I worked with Jet Li, I had taken my Spanish riding boots, which has a high heel like this, and I wore those, and I wore the same boots when I did Highlander. So because it's a Spanish style, and it's, well, again, it's a good thing because you don't get to wear tennis shoes when you're playing a part.
It'd be a lot easier, yeah. Now, in Batman Returns, I noticed that you played the role of terrifying clown number 2.
I was also the hot dog vendor, but you gotta look sharp for that one.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
They were just making you do everything on that set. So I really need to know, what kind of motivation did it take for you? How many weeks, months perhaps, did it take for you to prepare for that role of terrifying clown number 2? And how close did we get as a nation to seeing a terrifying clown number 2 spin-off movie?
Well, I got a call from the assistant coordinator, and he said, those wavy swords that you brought to rehearsal one day, bring them tomorrow. So I did, and we basically threw that. It's his batarang, I guess, which was sort of a drone, because it bounced off of a bunch of us. So I did a very impromptu. It's a chambered hand sequence, which comes from Filipino Kali. And then I got knocked out with that. So I was a terror clown, but briefly. And there really wasn't any rehearsal.
Wow.
It was the cameraman running at us with the camera, and then we reacted.
So you mentioned how you try to tell a story and bring physicality to your roles, and I think in this episode of MacGyver that really comes out, and that makes Piedra so scary. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you about. Whose idea was it to put the lockpick behind the mustache in that episode?
I guess it wasn't mine, because I don't remember, but it is interesting, because one of the things I do is I try to train to actually be able to do stuff. So I can actually blow out a candle with a whip. I can actually take a target out of your hand as we pass at full gallop in opposite directions on horseback, or I can actually cut things with a sword, and more importantly, I can not cut things by accident with a sword. One of the things I loved about, I went into for the audition, and it was the last episode of the season, and the director was, I had to convince him that I was the guy, both as the actor and that I had martial arts skills. So, I threw a bunch of kicks and stuff in his office, and, he gave me the part. And then we kind of, improvised stuff on set. I actually did hold myself up in the closet, by the pressure of my hands and my feet against the wall. before I swung down and got the guy. But having the fake scars and the curare needles and everything, and then, in the end, refer to that as I call myself the kicking nun there. He also let me say, can I do an accent here? Can I do this? Can I do that? And he let me do all that stuff, which was really very cool. I do have a story that's kind of fun. At the end, I'm hoisted on my own petard, as they say, or my own curare needle, because, we did that thing, and I blow it at him, and it bounces off and gets lodged in the concrete seam. And, I fall on it, and, I die. And I kind of going, well, what's curare do? So I called the studio and said, because I was an actor at the time and my library was somewhat limited, and we didn't have the internet in those days. What year was that? 82 or something?
86.
86. There we go. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But I called up and said, is there a studio library? Could you connect me? And I called and I asked, and I said, okay, curare poisoning. How do you die? And he says, oh, well, you suffocate. And I went, okay, that's it. And I then did a little more research and discovered that curare paralyzes your intercostal muscles, so you can't breathe. You can't take a breath. So it was a little more specific. So it gave me something more to play mentally as an actor. That I can't catch my breath because I can't make my ribs work to pump my lungs to pull in oxygen, and it was a little lesson to myself. You do your homework, which I'd kind of learned from Shakespeare, because do you know what a variorum is?
No.
It's basically a giant book of whichever Shakespeare play you're doing. Most of the big ones have it, and it's all of the scholarly chatter, for the last, what are we talking about, 300 years, of what each generation thought. And there were times when they actually, at the turn of the century, they were rewriting the plays because if they had sad endings, Romeo and Juliet live and, stuff like that. But it's just, it's a scholarly treatise that has a whole lot of information on what the archaic language means and, different choices. And for an actor, I was thinking being an actor is being a detective. What does the language tell me? What's said about me? What can I infer? And when I played Blade in Masters of the Universe, I got to create a character that didn't exist in He-Man land. Sorry, Eternia. But so it was fun, and people asked me, well, when you say that, I've waited a long time for this, and I said, yes, in my mind, He-Man was the one who cost me my eye, so I just, you make assumptions and you go with it, and but a lot of it helps if you make assumptions from some sort of knowledge. One of the great things about all the things that I've learned and taught myself is all of those disciplines, I can make a weapon of opportunity out of almost anything. Basically, I can be Piedra. So I started early on in my TV career was Piedra, and pretty much every role since then, I'm always looking, going, well, if I needed something, I could make a weapon out of that, or out of that, or out of that. And it just gives you the ability to not run out of ideas in a scene, that the more knowledge is choices, and your art is in your choices. Let's put it that way.
You're also a mind reader, because that was going to be my question, which is my role on the show is I do research on the MacGyverisms to see if they work, and I was wondering if you researched your Piedra-isms, and you do. Apparently, you did check to see if the things you wanted to do actually do work, and I'm impressed by that. I love that.
Well, thank you. Good. I'm available if you, let's find money. Let's do something.
Well, and Anthony, you've talked a lot about the different people that you've worked with. Sam mentioned, the Michelle Pfeiffers and Jet Lis, and you mentioned Tim Burton and Harrison Ford. But it seems like the one common theme is you train these professionals to do the stunt or do the bit on their own so that they don't have to have a second or a stand-in. And one of the things that stood out in the Assassin episode was you were the face of the fight with Richard Dean Anderson. And it can almost be a two-part question. I mean, that fight in and of itself with Richard, but overall, like, it would seem to be obvious, but I'll ask anyway, it has to make an action sequence better when the actor themselves is performing the stunt. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I've trained myself to be able to perform my own action, and I consider action to be action and fights are, to me, the opportunity for the actor to bring another layer of credibility to his performance. Stunts, I think of in terms of, again, it requires tremendous skill and training, but it's usually done from, if somebody's going to fall off a building, or somebody's going to be set on fire, or somebody's going to crash a car. That's really not the business of the actor, and it shouldn't be. It's actually too risky. Tom Cruise likes to do. I actually got to work with Tom Cruise on. It was originally called The Irish Story, then it became Far and Away, and he was a lovely man. He was very, very appreciative of everybody's helping him look great. But they often advertise that he likes to do his own stunts, and he does. Of course, there has been a team that have made sure that if Tom's going to do this, he's going to be safe and minimize, his risks. In that last one, when he jumped from a building, he broke his ankle, and I'm not sure, I wasn't there, so I don't know how much assist he had or whatever, but he, very quickly stumbled off frame so that they got the shot, but they had to shut down filming for, I'm not sure, a couple of weeks. But yes, no, it's what I like to do is, if I'm not doing it myself, I come in and I'll often help coordinators or directors and actors make the most of their character-driven action opportunities. Because to me, action should drive story and articulate character, or it's a disservice to the audience and to the project. It's a little different in some of these very large blockbuster movies, like the Marvel Universe stuff. That's a lot of CGI and a lot of doubling and a lot of it's very complex. I think they do it better than perhaps, say, the Transformer movies, where I'm never quite sure what to look at. There's just it's such an assault on your senses. I like the simplicity of things from an earlier time, but movies in the 80s and 90s had a lot less. I think visual effects are a wonderful condiment, but they shouldn't be the entree, if that makes sense. But to answer your question, yes, it's always better when the performer can do as much of their own work as possible. And the way to do that is to take the time to train them and then surround them with, people that are going to help them look great and keep them safe.
Well, and in that fight sequence with Richard Dean Anderson, it seemed pretty clear that you were you the entire time. Was that Richard throughout that sequence, or did he have a stand-in?
Oh, yes. No, that was all Richard. It was kind of fun because Richard trusted me. I earned his trust very early on. And I was very much in control. But truthfully, there was almost, and here's the thing, there was almost no rehearsal because there wasn't any time. In a film, I've done pretty much all aspects of show business, from theater, which, I love, but it's very hard to make a living doing theater. And then I did soap operas. I did pretty much all the soap operas that were, in LA and in California at one point. And I used to think, oh my God, soap operas. And then I did one, and it's like, these are hard because, as they told me when I got there, 3 days a week we say the same thing over and over again. We just invert the language, which drove me crazy because as a stage actor, I work very hard. When you're doing Shakespeare, you say Shakespeare. So you memorize the lines as they are. So to say something in one scene and then come back a couple pages later and invert everything, and repeat it was, and they'd say, well, you're only going to get new information 2 days a week. And in one thing, I got killed off, I think 5 times. where I thought I was dead, and then they called me back, and I said, "But I died." And they said, "No, you're not really dead." And in one, they're going, "Okay, she's going to take the pistol out of your desk, and shoot you." But no, wait, she's going to bring in a pistol and shoot you, but they're actually blanks. And I'm going, well, if I'm going to be confident that they're blanks, shouldn't I have the pistol in my desk? And maybe she takes it. And one of the cast says, "You're having a logic attack." And I went, "Oh, sorry, never mind. I'll just do what I'm told." But the point is, in a soap opera, you do like 46 pages in a day, every day, 5 days a week. In an episodic television show, you used to get 7 days to shoot, an episode. And when I did The Highlander, we had 3 action sequences. We never had more than half an hour of rehearsal. And then the biggest, fight at the end, in the rain, in the mysterious circle, we had shown it to Adrian the night before and went, "Oh, well, we'll rehearse tomorrow on set." Well, it was raining and we had no cover set. So basically we walked out into the rain and shot the rehearsals. But fortunately, Adrian is very, very good. And, Braun and I had worked out a really good fight. So I sort of knew my half, and, it turned out really well. But, in a feature film, depending, you may get, I've never had this, but 2 or 3 weeks to shoot an action sequence. And in a really big, complicated one, you may get more time than that. So a lot of it has to do with how much time do you have, as to how much rehearsal you get. So it's I learned very early on, be able to actually do stuff, because then if you get no rehearsal, that's why I never stopped training, because I can actually do it. So that makes it easy to film. But if I couldn't do it and there was no rehearsal, then you get doubled. And usually everything gets simplified, so it's kind of crappy.
How about you? Your favorite all-time movie? I'm really curious. Do you have one?
I'm very big on classic, from the golden age, the 30s, the 40s. I'm very big on John Ford movies. I like Akira Kurosawa movies. That's what got me into choreography, watching Yojimbo and Sanjuro and Seven Samurai. I love a good. I love simple movies with compelling characters, and heartfelt stories. I just saw Nomadland, which is a very, very simple movie, kind of timely right now. That was very effective. But I also like, big action movies, well done action. To me, it's one of the things I try to do when I'm working. Action is a visceral realm. And if you recall, I said we have verbal dialogue and we have physical dialogue. And the best, my favorite roles are when I've had opportunities to combine both those elements, because it gives me, different layers. And it gives me a credibility, because, as you say, the audience sees me doing stuff. So I'd have to think about it, but I like Westerns. I like noir. I like science fiction. My tastes are kind of eclectic. A good movie is a good movie, but most of what I'm looking for is, tell me a good story. And then, you can tart it up with some good action, but if I catch you, then I get pulled out of the story, and then I start going, "Oh, well, how would I fix this?" But now I'm very, very well. Yeah, some people kind of go, "Oh, aren't now you know how that's all done? Doesn't that spoil the movie for you?" I says, "No, not at all. they liken movies to making sausage. You don't really want to know how it's made or what goes into it, but I do. I would rather, be captivated by the story and just be involved in the, emotionally invested in the, the characters' journeys. If I'm not, or if, there are little spots where I'll go, I'm surprised you did that there. Or then I start looking at it, well, how would I have made that better? So favorite movie, I'm not sure. It could go anywhere from Citizen Kane to, there's a lovely little movie. Have you ever seen The Lady Killers with Alec Guinness and Herbert Lom and Peter Sellers, of all people.
Didn't Tom Hanks do a remake?
It's like he did. Alas, I like Tom's work very, very much, but it pales in comparison. The other one is like a Victorian watch, or every St. Patty's Day, which is coming up. We just got some Irish whiskey. We like to watch. Well, we've seen The Quiet Man so many times. We usually just kind of go to the fight scene. Which is one of the most fun fight scenes, but it's because the characters are so good. And then we'll watch a little movie called Waking Ned Devine. Have you ever seen that?
Haven't seen it. I know the title. Haven't seen it.
Do your homework, boys. This one's worth it. It'll make you smile.
Okay.
So I was going to piggyback off of what Sam asked. So he asked about your favorite movie as an enthusiast. What about your favorite work as a participant, and do you watch your work? Because some actors say they don't watch their work. So what do you like that you've done, and do you watch it?
Yes, I like to watch my work. Well, I did it as a young actor. It used to be very, very difficult to see dailies, because frankly they didn't want the actor in the room, so they could say rude things about them. It was usually only the director and the producer and the cinematographer, would be watching dailies, which is just one more thing for them to have to do during a very full filming day. But a couple times I was able to talk, the studio and say, could I go to dailies today? I found it very helpful because, I was a young actor and I was transitioning from stage to film. They're the same but different. It's important to know how to make the structure and the mechanics of the medium you're working in work for you and not against you. For example, when you're on stage, you have to project, you have to emote, and you have your whole body to tell your story. So you sort of have to be careful what your body's saying while your mouth is saying something else. It's a complete package. When you're in film, it depends on whether they're shooting you from in a full shot, or they're in a medium shot, or they're in a medium close-up, or they're in a close-up, or they're in what they came to be called the Sergio Leone, like this. Because if you're in a tight shot and I'm doing this, they're kind of or I'm going in and out of frame, you're going to be left on the cutting room floor. So you need to know. And if you're shooting me almost full figure, and there's three people I'm talking to, I can talk to you, and I can talk to you, and I can talk to you. If they're a little tighter, now I'm kind of going here and here and here, just my head. Or if they're really tight, I may be just doing my eyes. Do you see what I'm saying? Knowing what the shot is. So the person you talk to is the cameraman. The director's busy. He'll talk to you if he wants something from you, but most of the time they leave you alone, and these are generalizations, but sort of. But I found it very useful because I knew what I was trying to do, and then getting to see it the next day was very helpful to me in going, okay, I'm
among
learning how to
action
use
movie
this medium
fans,
to my advantage.
who the stunt coordinator is oftentimes as important as who the director and the actor are. Do you have a favorite young stunt coordinator or stunt director or stunt man that you have your eyes on that you would suggest our audience pay attention to? Who's a young name you think we should look for?
Oh, well, since I'm not working quite as much as I was when I was younger, I cannot say that I can. Sam Hargrave is very good. Monique Ganderton, who they both did the Marvel movies. They did, the Iron Man, and Monique just did. The two of them together worked on Atomic Blonde, which is David Leitch, and David comes out of 8711. Partnered with. He directed the John Wick films. Name flew out of my head right at this moment. But Monique just did Endgame, which was kind of groundbreaking because it was a huge movie, huge budget, and she's a woman. And they often run into, that glass ceiling. But she had the ability, she got the opportunity, and she delivered the goods. She did a great job. Chad Stahelski. Chad Stahelski was who I was trying to think of. He's the director of all the John Wick films. He's also supposed to be directing the Highlander reboot. So I'm kind of hoping he looks at some of the old Highlanders and goes, yeah, let's get that guy in here. But we'll see.
For that leading role that you probably deserved, right?
Actually, if you want to write letters, I'd be okay with that.
Sure. Anything else we can help you promote? The Rancho Indalo again, or what else? Your website? What would you like us to mention?
Yeah, Rancho Indalo, www.delongis.com, DLONGIS.com. Like I say, we enjoy having people come, and we'll get out of this soon if we can just get people to wear a damn mask. I just got my second vaccination. So, it's if we can all pull together, we can get back to work, get the economy back on track, and we start making movies again. So that, and we'd love to have people come. We like people who want to learn something and who want to share the ambiance of the ranch. It's really pretty. Other stuff, encourage me to write this book and then buy it when I do. And then keep an eye out. I was in Red Dead Redemption. That's one of my voice things.
Yeah.
I just did a thing for Disney called oh golly, it was for cars, and it was Best Christmas Ever, I think it's called. So that was fun. But I did one called Bulletstorm, where I'm General Serrano. And if you want a fun drinking game, it was the foulest mouth character I've ever played. Everything out of my mouth is an insult, and most of it's either a curse word or pornographic. And I'm going, you really want me to say this? Because I'm going to commit to it if I do. And they loved it, and they had me come back, and it's this and that. And there's apparently a clip online of about 30 minutes of me doing nothing but swearing. And so if you want to make it a drinking game, don't let people draw pictures on your face when you're passed out.
I know you've got a birthday coming up in a couple of weeks, right? March 23rd, is that your birthday?
Yep. March 23rd is my birthday, and March 29th is my wedding anniversary.
Any big plans? Any big plans that you can share?
I see. Well, and one helps. There'll be adult beverages and, adult. Well, my wife and I love to work out together, so we'll find something.
There you go. We can read between those lines.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but we actually we've been in isolation by choice, for for about the last 18 years, because where we live, top of the mountain, is perfect. It's 3 miles up a dirt road. So, the Watchtower people don't come by. We, nobody knocks on our door who hasn't been invited. So we extend an invitation, to people who call first,
Awesome. Thanks again, Anthony. We'll be looking for you out there, and maybe we'll get that group rate. We'll come out to Rancho Indalo one of these days.
Yeah, and keep me posted. Send me a link, because I'll throw this up on my social media. I'm sort of, slowly crawling. I actually just joined Instagram a couple weeks ago, so you can look for me on that. But I'll see if I can get some more people to listen and sign up, and I got more stories, so we can do this again.
Awesome.
We'd love to do it again. I mean, we just found out now with Paramount Plus coming out, MacGyver now in HD on the former CBS All Access Paramount Plus, so now we can see Piedra in high definition. And when you return in season 3, HD all over again.
Oh yes, season 3 was Lost Love, and I got to play Russian in that one. It was most. I love to do accents. It changes how you your rhythms, and vodka is very nice.
Forget the Dos Equis guy. This is the world's most interesting man, Anthony De Longis. Anthony, thank you so much for your time tonight.
You're welcome, guys.
Our thanks again to Anthony De Longis for joining us as our first ever guest. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Please follow us and say hi on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Send us an email or throw something in the tip jar on Patreon if you like. For Mike and Jeff, I'm Sam. Thanks again. See you next time. Peace.
Any big plans?